Hi, I'm Jane, and together with Jodes, we are two proud feminists passionate about female empowerment. This podcast is our take on the real conversations, real issues, and real challenges we must stay focused on if we're going to inspire the next generation of female leaders, managers, and entrepreneurs to pick up the baton and continue the journey to equality. But be warned, there will be rants and the odd profanity, but mainly just lots of curious conversations, uplifting stories, great guests, and food for thought on the path we still have to travel. It is clear that our young girls need us to harness our gumption and to use our voices now to make the changes we all know need to happen. It's time to be a pioneer, not a passenger. To paraphrase the famous words of a female game changer, Hollywood's iconic Bette Davis, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the last episode in Series 4. So this is episode 6. Series 4 has all been around female energy matters. So we've had a great series this series, haven't we? We've had two amazing guests on. And so in this final episode, we wanted to kind of round up this series. And I guess the word is consolidate. You know, the title for this episode really is about where's your energy home, which might not make immediate sense, but it's where's your natural place of energy, you know, across that spectrum of male and female, you know, because we've all got a place that feels right for us and how that fits in with everything around us. And they're not all in the same place.
Well, no, they're not. So we all have male and female energy, don't we? It's not like you're a man, this is all yours. You're a woman, this is all yours. We all kind of like are on that spectrum, aren't we?
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's about working out where you sit.
Yeah, and kind of we started out this series really in episode 1, bringing that to life, you know, defining what we meant by the male and female energy dynamic. You know, and we talked about it as an 80-20 rule, didn't we?
Absolutely.
About how you use your time. Where do you sit and how do you spend a bit of your time? So even if you are somebody who sits right in your female energy, you know what? There might be 20% of your time where you need to lean into that male.
Absolutely.
There's still time when you need to kind of get into task mode, get stuff done, you know, and make things happen. We talked about the idea, didn't we, about balance. So I think it's easy sometimes to lose sight of that it's about balance, particularly when we do deep dives on topics, isn't it? Yeah. You can end up taking things quite literally. So it's good opportunity to round this series up by coming back to this idea of what's your balance? Yeah. What is your natural kind of energy position? What feels like home for you?
That should feel easy.
It should.
That should
What's
feel
the word
easy.
you use?
Flow. Yeah, it should feel easy.
Flow. I always want to say flow like that. Flow.
It should feel easy. If it's feeling hard, if it's like, everything just feels so tough at the moment and I'm exhausted and blah, 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 the likelihood is you've stepped out of flow. Yeah. You've stepped out of your home where you generally live. And that might be the time to think about this stuff. And there might be other things going on as well. You know, it might not all be about this. It could be situational. It could be job related, particularly if you're trying to be female in a male coded environment, which we also talked about. But, you know, it's important to find out where you are on that scale so that you can define that. I remember, you know, having a conversation with a woman who was a client of mine when I was in my mid-20s. I would have been late 20s because I'd just left to set up her consultancy. And she was having a dreadful time with her hormones. And she said to me, and I never did it, she said to me, if I can give you any advice, Jane, it's know where you are now. Yeah. Know what your hormone levels are now. Because when you go through menopause, and if you don't know that, you don't know where to get back to. And it's you'll be on every single different type of HRT.
Trying to figure it out.
You'll lose yourself. You won't know who you are on some days. And she's so right. And this is the same thing. If you don't know where you live, when you get knocked out of it for lots of different reasons, you don't know where to come back. Yeah,
you don't. It's like, it is literally like the metaphor of your house, isn't it? Because if you don't know where your house is, you can't get home, can you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't put the postcode in the sat nav.
You don't know the paths and
No.
and so on. So I always remember saying that to me, and then I went through menopause.
That's a really good analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't do what she said, so I lost myself a bit, but I'm at the other side of it now.
Well, I'm just like getting in it. But the last 6 months has been a bit like that for me.
Yeah.
Of really questioning where my home is.
Yeah.
I've been knocked.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Luckily, I think I'm still close enough to clock where home is. Or actually, you know, for me, and this might resonate with many women, is redefining a new home.
Yeah.
I want to move house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wait, they're all coming now.
Yeah, I want to move house.
I've decided that I want to move house.
Yeah.
My energy is moving house.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for the time of life that I've gone into.
Yeah.
You know, it's no
Kids
secret.
are growing up.
Yeah, and I've shared with it in many of our podcast episodes, my own kind of journey and, you know, working, having a career in a very male energy, male coded environment that actually up until about 6 months ago, I thought was my normal and my home. And all of a sudden I've been tired this year.
Yeah.
I've just realised I've got basically no
B12
as well.
Not helped, yeah.
So do get your bloods done as well. You never know.
Yeah.
Not just your hormone bloods, other things. But you might want to move home.
Absolutely,
as well.
you might want to move home because you change at different stages of your life, don't you? You change when your kids get older. You change when your relationship shifts. You change when you want to do something different.
Yeah.
You know, when you want to do something that's more about contribution
and growth.
So absolutely, you change all the time. But again, you've got to still know where your home is.
Yeah. So I guess that's the first thing, isn't it? And if that's not making sense, maybe listen back to some of the episodes in this series and think, right, okay, hang on a minute, let's just go back there.
Go back to the beginning.
Can this help me figure out where home is for me?
Yeah.
You know, and don't give yourself a hard time about it. I've given myself a hard time about it a bit. And that's not very helpful.
No, it's an exploratory thing. It should be fun.
It is. And it's about acknowledging. I think we talked in the very first episode of this series. And that feels ages ago now. You know, because it ends up being kind of 3 months ago. Each series takes us 3 months to kind of roll out. But it's remembering why we're like this and how we got here, I think was the question that we answered.
Yeah.
You know, that this isn't something necessarily that you've just done to yourself.
No, you haven't chosen it.
You know,
in lots of cases, it's just like where we are in our development in a big picture.
And the culture and society that we live in.
Yes.
You know, if we go back to the patriarchy and the misogynistic kind of setups that we have to navigate and operate in, and that's not to like drop all accountability for it. You can still do plenty about it, but it's knowing that, you know, there's a lot that brought you here. And you can let yourself off the hook a bit about that.
Yeah, this isn't a process. This is not another process to beat yourself up. And what's really interesting about that is if you're doing that, you're in your superwoman.
Yeah. But
you're already
there, isn't it?
You're already there. You're already there. If you're beating yourself up, you're already there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's good to understand a little bit more about what your female is. Because I speak to a lot of women and I can hear their male in their language. And I will say to them, you know, realize you sat in your male energy there, and they go, I know, but I don't know what my female is. What is it?
And how to
what
get
is
into
it? I don't even know what it means.
We shut the door on it a long time ago.
Because I have to behave like this to work. If I didn't behave like this, you know, but I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. And I don't think you can keep putting all these different heads on. So it ends up being one head and it's male, and you take that home with you. Yeah, so there is a different way to behave. It takes courage. It's different. It means you're going to be authentic. It means that you're going to be a woman around that table. And, you know, it is doable, and it is where you live. It is more of your home, and it's about recognizing that. And if we don't start doing that, are we ever going to change anything?
Absolutely. And that's not to dismiss anybody who's sitting there thinking, no, well, I am in my male energy and I'm happy there. If you're happy there and you're feeling flow, and
clap your hands.
Yeah. If you're happy and you
know it.
Clap your hands. Oh, you took me a minute then. I was a little bit behind. I didn't realise what I said. That's okay, isn't it? This is not a message to all women going, you shouldn't be in your male energy. Get out of it.
Yeah.
But if you're in it and you're like, oh, this is a bit hard and not in flow anymore.
I'm exhausted. I'm unhappy. I feel like it's really hard work.
Then it might be worth a little look, mightn't it? And it doesn't come to you overnight to figure out the how. And actually, again, I think the irony of it was, I was like, right, tell me the answer.
Yeah. What do we do? What do we do?
Which is the male way to
how do
go
do
at
that?
it,
Yeah,
isn't
absolutely.
it?
What do we do and how do you do
Just
it?
give us a list.
Give us a list. Give
What
me
do
an
I need
action.
to-
Give me a task.
Yeah.
You know, give me a checklist. You know, and
when it doesn't work like
Doesn't
that, does it? Yeah, I just, you know, it's kind of like, let it come.
yeah,
Let it come.
yeah,
Relax.
yeah.
Let it come.
And you know, one of the really interesting things, women, in female energy is collaborative. Okay?
Yeah.
Male energy is competitive. So what's really interesting is when you listen to yourself and you listen to other women, once you start getting into this, you can sit there and go, oh, yeah, know where you're sitting on that.
Yeah.
And both of us work with women all the time. So, you know, when you sat around a circle with women, and we sit around lots of circles because we have teams of women working in our business, you can hear this. And I recently facilitated like a power team for a group of women in the insurance sector. And it was set up by one of our ambassadors in Girls Out Loud. There was no agenda. It was literally, these are powerhouse women across all different sectors of insurance. Some of them work for the companies like Aviva,
like the big
and
corporates.
AXA, Some of them work for some of the big brokers, and some of them work for the organisation that manages all of that, like
the bodies.
And there was about, I think there was 10 of them. They all came together in a room with me and Jackie, who set them all up, and they just talked, and they just introduced themselves. And the question I asked them was, "What's it like to be a woman in your organisation?" That's all I asked them, and they just talked. When we got halfway around, Jackie, who knows me really well and who spoke on this,
you met Jackie in episode 3.
She was a woman in her male and has made a massive shift, okay, with a massive impact on our business. The business has grown exponentially since she shifted. And she, halfway around this table, she just looked at me and she went, you're going to have a field day here, aren't you? Because even the language that was landing here was all about, I feel like I'm pretty ambitious and I'm aspirational and I'm, competitive and, you've got to do this first and this is really important. And, you've got to really manage your teams, and you've got to be ruthless and and I was,
that's a word, ruthless, ambitious.
Oh, yeah. And then they were talking about, and you know what? I always like to work as a woman. I prefer to work for men and I prefer to manage men. And that broke my heart. I was like, we're sat here.
I felt like that though at times.
God,
I get where them women are at. Like, I look back now and I'm like, oh, that makes me feel sad for them. But at the time, I would have said exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And so I then spent an hour unpicking all of that.
What came out?
Well, they all got it, and they all wanted to keep this group as a circle, support each other. They set up a WhatsApp group in the room straight away. They came up with a brand for what they wanted to be called, the Northern Power Women, Northern Powerhouses they wanted to be called, because there's already a Northern Power Women. Northern Powerhouses, they agreed to meet monthly. They agreed that they were going to divert some of the budgets that they got into working in for women and girls. All of them did that. Because, I also talked about Girls Out Loud, but very briefly, I didn't really need to because they got that. And they all talked about that there was very few of them at their level in their organisations and how important it was that they had that network of women.
It's quite lonely and isolating,
absolutely.
Isn't it?
And they learned so much from each other. Because they learned so much from, oh God, that happens with you as well. Yeah, what do you do about that? And
just that sense of connection, isn't it? They got to really experience female energy in that
environment
without realising it. It wasn't an obvious thing, was it?
Most of them were like, Jane, can you tell us what that looks like? What does female energy look like?
Are you doing it now?
I don't even know what it is anymore, right? I don't even know what it is anymore. And so I talked about collaboration. I said, I talked about collaboration. I talked about softer language. I talked about
being values-led,
being team-orientated. Not that you're taking anything away from your own performance, but actually, women are so much better at managing teams. They're so much better at that. I talked about that it's okay to be emotional, rather than we're not allowed to be emotional here because that's seen as negative and weak. That's actually really
it's a big
powerful.
problem for lots of women, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's exactly the story that I experienced. Is you learn to shut it down.
because it's not, you know, the men don't like it. And do you know what? Most of the men don't like it anywhere. Do you know what I mean? They don't like to see you emotional as a wife or a mother. But we are emotional creatures, and we should harness that and you know, be proud of it. I mean, we shouldn't have to hide it. Because
but if you've stashed it away for so long, one of the things that's been really difficult for me is reaccessing that.
Kicking it back in.
It doesn't come back up very easily. Like I was like, come on then, if it's in there. I didn't even believe it at first. I was like, whatever.
Well, that's a very male attitude. Isn't it? Come on then. If you're in
there. If you're in there,
come on,
get out.
Show yourself.
Yeah. That's what it was like. Hurry up. I haven't got time for this.
I'm waiting now. I've got things to do.
Where actually it's probably taken a good 6 months. But I was saying to you when we got together today, I went to yoga on Sunday, proper relaxed into yoga, and cried most of the way through it. Not because there was anything wrong with me, but it was finally coming. So it's starting to just like be normal for when it's there.
But it's also recognizing as well that you are in this male code.
Oh, we've got our visitors.
Got a bit of a banger again then. That you're in this male code because, you know, they were like, well, we've got golf budgets. And I'm like, so who are you going to set this up as a? Yeah, we definitely are. I'm going to do this one. Someone do it in a nice private dining area, so on and so on. And I said, well, obviously there's going to be a budget cost of that, isn't it? Oh yeah, but we've got a golf budget. And there was this realization
that there's always been a golf budget.
There's always
or
been
a version of,
there's always been budgets to do male things, and the men go and do that, and they have their network and they have their time to talk, and the women don't. And so they were all like, right, well, we're going to do that.
Yeah, we'll go and put the dinner on, don't we?
Yeah. So it was lovely because this is a sector that's, well, they aren't they all, but very underrepresented by women. But then I think, where are they where they're not?
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
And they were just really inspired to be better role models for the next generation because they've got young people coming into that sector all the time. They don't keep them. They don't stay.
They don't stay.
They can recruit them, but they don't stay.
That's a shame, isn't it?
So they go through all that investment, all that apprenticeship, and then they go, nah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. We know why. So that was just an example. And I do think that that's becoming more and more popular now. So, you know, we're now changed DNI to DIEB, haven't we? You know, that's now. So it's now diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. And so everything's lumped into this one big kind of project scheme, you know, set of initials. And we talked about in a previous episode how, in a way, the women's voices have been silenced in corporate. You know, the networks have disappeared. But I think it's gone full circle. And I think what's happening now is we've got this little spark of sisterhood. This little spark.
They're more informal. They're not arranged. Like, it's not the business saying we're having a women's network. But what you used the word before about more. It's more like a circle.
They're more like power circles. There's fewer of them, but they're at a very high level. They're there to support each other and learn from each other and say, well, how do you do that in your business then? Oh, that's interesting. And, you know,
or just to be vulnerable and share your troubles and your challenges.
Because we keep talking about this, you know, bring your authentic self to work, be an authentic leader. Well, but we're not, are we?
Well, I don't think people get what it is.
They don't understand it.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, this is we've got the spirits with us. I wish they were the spirits, but I don't know if you were listening in episode 4 of this series. We're still having the roof redone. The roofers are still with us. I wish it was our spirit guides.
No, 8 weeks it's going to take this roof. We're only into week 3.
Yeah.
But I don't even hear it anymore because it's like going on all the time. I only don't hear it when it stops. And then I go, oh,
that's peaceful.
Lovely.
That's peaceful. So if you can hear the banging, that's what it is. But at least you know, we just roll with it here.
Yeah, we do. We just roll with it. We've had Molly walk in, haven't we? My little dog. We've had all sorts happen.
Yeah.
But that's totally. You just roll with it.
So actually, when we think about this, that feels like probably a lovely way to pull this series together and wrap this one up is around what did we learn through all the conversations that we've had in this series. And one of the biggest one is about those female networks, isn't it? That actually They are coming full circle,
Yeah.
even though it's gone broader with the diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging, all being
We've just added a few initials. We've not really changed anything, have we?
But it's not just about gender either anymore, is it?
No, it
you
isn't.
know, and probably the same for the LGBTQ plus community, neurodiverse,
yeah.
whether it's about ethnicity.
Yeah.
You know, we're all being put into one pot.
Yeah.
So this isn't about trumping anyone else.
We're all not. It's finding our own space within that pot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we all still need our own space, because we've all still got things that we need to progress.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, women aren't a minority, as we keep saying, we're 52% of the population. Yeah. So, you know, we're not like a little isolated group.
No, definitely it's time to take up
some of that space again, a lot more
of that space again.
More in that space.
But how it looks now seems to be more of these more informal, smaller, intimate, more like circles, that real sisterhood is coming back. So find yours. Yeah. Find yours. And if there isn't one there, maybe you go rally a few female colleagues, allies, connections. Maybe you make some new connections.
It's amazing what happens when you do that. The magic appears, because you find out that you're all thinking the same thing, you're all feeling the same thing, but nobody's expressing it.
Yeah, it lets the female energy out.
Yeah, it allows you to express it, and then so it's you know, it's really important to do it. If you don't have any, create them.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. It's been a blast from us. You might be listening to this at a completely different time, but this is our last episode that we're recording before Christmas.
It is, indeed.
So we're going to have a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
In the new year, we've decided the podcast will be a year old in January.
Hey.
So we're going to start the new year by having a bit of a look back at some of our most listened to episodes.
Our bestsellers.
And before we start series 5, where we'll be really getting under the skin of how the landscape looks for our younger women coming up the ladder, we'll say.
Yeah, trying to get on it or not getting on it, as the case may be. Yeah,
definitely.
So we're going to have some young women come and talk to us.
Yeah, so you definitely want to be tuned in for that. Yeah. So other than that, have yourselves a good one, and we'll see you soon.
See you next year. Okay, bye. You have been listening to Jane and Jodes on One. Until next time, remember, sisterhood matters. Together, we are bold, brave, fierce, and unstoppable.